All right. Again, today we are talking college basketball. Everything from what the one and dones have done, everything from, the AAU scene, just basically the entire landscape of college basketball and how it is today versus how it was before, maybe some of the changes, what we can do to get it better, but just the overall aspect of college basketball. Let's take a look at it. Today we got with us my guy Bryant Northern, former player at
What's up, Big
University
B?
of Louisville. What's going on, man?
How you doing?
I am doing well, doing well. Thanks for joining us today. So,
I'm
just
excited.
good. I'm glad. Thanks for coming in. So we're just jumping in here again, just talking college basketball as a whole. Tell me what you think of the landscape of college basketball.
I think this era of college basketball is definitely for the players. It is a watered down product for the fans, though. This is a generation of one and dones, two and dones. Household names really don't exist anymore. Guys who stay all 4 years and become fan favorites. It's a thing of the past. We grew up in an era of Calvert Chaney, Jamal Mashburn, Glenn Robinson, the Ray Allen, the Allen Iversons, Christian Leitner, Bobby Hurley's, and those guys stayed 2, 3, 4 years and were names that you knew. Your parents, mom and dad even knew. Even people who didn't really follow the sports closely knew who were the best players. And now you look at college basketball. I was looking at the top 10. Purdue doesn't have a player right now that was a Power 5 or a 5-star recruit. I'm looking at UConn, who's number 2, 12-0. I can't name one player on their team. And this is just an era of guys we don't know anymore, guys who are there for a year or two, transfer portal, where did he come from, 5th-year senior, 6th-year senior, and it's a completely new product than what we're used to.
I think a lot of that, you kind of touched on it, obviously NIL stuff, transfer portal, but I think a big part of it is the NBA. And what I mean by that is NBA is so potential oriented today. It's almost like they believe that if a kid doesn't stay, or if he stays in college for 3 years, that he's not any good. Like, you have to be at almost your peak ability or peak potential ability after 1 year or after 2 years. But if you stay 3 years, well, you're not any good. And almost saying at 21 years old, you have to be a finished product. That couldn't be further from the truth. I had a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and we both agreed. It's like, look at what real NBA teams do with guys that come from Europe. They may draft a guy at 18, 19, 20 years old, and then they stash him over in Europe for them to play for another 2 or 3 years, and then they bring him back. I mean, college basketball could literally be the recruiting ground or the minor leagues of professional or of the NBA if they allowed it to be, especially with NIL right now. What do you think?
I 100% agree. NBA GMs, NBA execs, they're like meteorologists. They're right about 1 out of 3 times. About 33% of the time, they're right, and they can keep their job. They are drafting on potential. The NBA rarely is looking for guys who can help right now. The juniors, the seniors, the proven commodities, the players who are proven year in and year out that they can sustain greatness or that they are physically ready. It's about drafting 18, 19-year-olds with big verticals and long wingspans and guys who might pan out 3, 4, 5 years later. Right. And I think we can thank guys like Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, the Jermaine O'Neals for this kind of new thing. It used to be in the days of the 80s and 90s, you stayed 4 years, and when you took the best player, the best right. players were drafted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you look at guys who don't start, guys who average 6 points a game, and they're looking at what could they be, who will Correct. They be, or where will they be in 4 or 5 years. It's a potential draft. If I was an NBA GM, I want to win right now. I want to draft the best players right now. If I happen to miss out on a 19-year-old, then so be it. Give me a 21, 22-year-old who can help me win right now and understands the game and the physicality right now. But this is what they do.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And it also pushes it down the line because teams can never get better because they're constantly drafting 18, 19-year-old guys that either make it or more than likely, more than not, they don't make it. And then you're just a constant cycle of them drafting in the lottery and they never get better. It just, a potential cycle of teams, and you see it every single year. It's like at some point you got to start drafting people that can help you right now, not in 2 or 3 years. So,
Well, look
but
at
that's
you're in Texas. Look at the Greg Brown kid from Texas. Physical freak, athlete, jumps out of the gym. You draft him in the first round. He can't dribble,
yeah,
can't really shoot, can't really defend, doesn't really know how to play. He is just a freak athlete. And then you're hoping in 3, 4, 5 years that he pans out to be a good basketball player. In today's game, it is really for the players. It's not for the fans. It's for the players. 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was no NIL. Guys were playing to get to the NBA, to get that bag, quote unquote, to get the money. And now you can make that money while you're in college. I saw a report about a year ago that said if NIL had existed when U of L won a national championship in 2012, that following year, Russ Smith would have been able to earn somewhere between $2 to $4 million because he was a senior, he was a household name. He even had a Russ-diculous name tag that was known across the country. People in California and Florida knew Russ-diculous, and he would have made $2 to $4 million. Can you imagine that landscape if he had been around for that? You even look at a Peyton Siva. They said he would have made about $1 million. So today's league is set up for the players to thrive. It's not really for the fans anymore because we miss the 4-year guys, the 3-year guys. I'm a Louisville fan. You're obviously wearing your Louisville gear. My favorite all-time player was DeJuan Wheat. He stayed 4 years. He took his U of L to an Elite Eight. He proven everything that he needed to prove, ended up making it to the NBA. I just don't think those days are gone. If a guy is good enough now or has that type of success, we'll never see him till their senior year.
no. There's no chance. No chance. Because even if he's able to go to the NBA, he will get labeled that he's not any good because he stayed 4 years. Now, the flip side of that could be, hey, you know what? I've got this NIL deal. I'm going to take a pay cut if I go in the late second or late first round. I'm not a lottery pick or something
Trace
like
Jackson
that.
Davis from IU is an example.
Yes.
Oscar
yes.
from UK is an example. Oscar has made about $2.7 million.
Yes.
Trace Jackson Davis has made over $1 million. They both would have been second round picks, and they would have came in at league minimum $480, $500,000. They would have taken a pay cut to go pro.
And not only that, they weren't guaranteed contracts because only the first rounds are guaranteed.
First 30 picks.
Yes, I'm just like, and I think getting back to it, I just think that the NIL will change things a little bit. It will change minds a little bit. Now, it's going to take a couple of years for that to filter in and do, but I think it's going to change the ideas because, again, it's just like you said, it doesn't mean a guy can't play, but you know what? Why not stay and try to develop a little bit more while making money? That doesn't mean I have to go play professional basketball if I'm not ready to go play in the NBA or overseas in the G League or whatever it is. I would rather stay here. Number one, get an education. But number two, I'm still making money and I'm still developing my game. I think that's going to cycle into it, Brian. I really do, man, because I think people, now again, it's not going to happen overnight, but over time, people are going to start to realize, hey, kids are making decisions based on themselves because that's what NIL is all about. Well, if that decision is monetary, then you have to look at it on the flip side and say, hey, their developmental aspects of it have to take into account as well. It can't just be monetarily.
When the NCAA implemented NIL, they were not thinking on the behalf of let these players stay longer and develop. No. This was their counter to We're losing dollars, we're losing eyes, we're losing good players. The product is being watered down, college basketball, because our elite players are going G League, Europe, or going pro. So their counter was, let's get these college guys paid, and now we keep those dollars in the NCAA versus the NBA. Absolutely. So this was a money move. Can we keep the best players in college basketball in college longer to help get viewers, to help generate more income for the NCAA, AA? And it's working because now, if I'm a player, I'm not rushing to the NBA. If I'm an elite player, I'm talking about the guys who are really getting the bag, because some guys are at an institution and there's no real NIL money. There might be 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, but I'm talking about the guys who can make 6 figures, the guys who can make 7 figures. You are in less of a rush. You're willing to take the time to stay, have fun, develop yourself, and still get the money. And let's say you miss and you don't make the NBA. What if you make $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in 3 or 4 years? What happens if you make $2 million over 4 years? Now you still have enough money to buy a home, to start your life. You've earned a degree, and that's enough of a safety net where, hey, life's going to be all right. I'm going to go to Europe or go wherever I need to go, but I put enough money in the bank that I can change my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with everything that you said there because all of it is correct. I think more people got to look at it that way versus, hey, they're just wanting to stay and get the money. Hey, man, if a regular college student was able to make that type of money and get their education and just stay all 4 years, then why can't an athlete do the exact same thing? Just my opinion. But that's
it's a beautiful
conversation for another day. So tell me, as far as one and dones, for me, I think one and dones are I mean, they're going to be around. I don't think it's going to go away. I know that the G League is trying to put something together, and there's other leagues that are trying to put stuff together. But I believe that kids still like going to college and competing at the college level. Now, one and done players, you know, whether they should be one and done, maybe they should stay 2 years. That's a different conversation. But what do you think that the one and done culture has done to college basketball?
One and done culture has created guys going pro before they're ready. Now, if you can go and be a first round pick and get paid, it's hard to tell a kid or a family, don't go be a millionaire right now. Wait. Correct. It's like having a winning lottery ticket and saying, don't cash it yet. Let it accrue or build some interest and cash it later. Most people would take the money now. So I think it's very naive of us to think, well, wait 1 more year, wait 2 more years when you're quote unquote ready. But the truth is, on average, and I did a little bit of research here, about 23% of the draft picks are freshmen. Okay. So almost 1 out of 4 first round picks are freshmen. Okay. Now, of those freshmen, about 7 guys in the first round are freshmen. How many of those guys impact the team or ready to play? I went back the last 6 or 7 years. It's 2, maybe 3 of those guys are ready to play. Think about that. So let's say of the last 30 guys who were freshmen that went in the last 4 years, about 6 or 7 of them are actually physically ready to compete at that level. So what is happening now is those guys are sitting the bench. Those guys aren't playing. Those guys aren't developing. They're getting bumped to the G League, and they don't sustain. They don't get the second contract where the real money is. The real money is on the second contract. The first contract is capped. It's a set dollar amount. When you get to the second and third contract, that's the real life-changing money. And if you go pro too early, it's just like if you're going to be an engineer, and that requires, let's say, a master's degree. You need 5-6 years to be an engineer. If you leave college as a freshman or sophomore, hold on, baby. If you leave college as a freshman or sophomore, you wouldn't be ready to properly build and sustain your craft. You would still need more education. Now, they might give you on-job training or et cetera, but you wouldn't be able to fulfill your obligation because you're not ready. And that's the problem with one and dones is you get the money, so you feel like you've won, but you can't perform. You're sitting the bench, you're not getting developed, you're getting traded, you're getting moved around. They send you to the G League, and now you've kind of hurt your career. You've hurt your stock versus someone who's ready to do the job.
Absolutely, 100%. You see it all the time, even with high draft picks. Guys are just not ready to play. I mean, there's a difference between being a professional and not being a professional and being a college player, man. There's just a difference, especially when you're talking about an 18, 19, 20-year-old, man, and you're playing and living and dealing an everyday life with people that are 30, 35 years old, man, the people that have families, mortgages, you know, real life stuff. There's just a difference. And I get the whole aspect of, yes, and you can't tell somebody not to go and you know, you're going to be a first round draft pick. Hey, don't go make $1 million. Don't go. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. At the same time, you got to understand, you got to keep developing because I think a lot of people, they go, they get the money, and then it's just, okay, that's it. And they stop developing or they weren't ready. And it's just, to me, the one and done cycle, I think just don't even have it in there. If guys just want to go from high school like it used to be, just let them go. But if you go to college, make them go 2 years and develop. That's just my personal opinion. I
honestly think if you let guys go out of high school, it'll ruin some lives because guys will never step foot in college and they'll never be ready to make it. I think a year or two also gives the NBA scouts to say, hey, we're not going to draft you yet. You're not ready. Now, although they're drafting on potential, I do think what you see sometimes is guys come back because they don't get the review or the response that they want. They hire an agent or they dibble dabble with some different scouts and they say, you got to get stronger, you got to become a better shooter. You leave out of high school and I think, man, you still get the same 7, 8, 9, 10 guys who get drafted. And we said 2 freshmen a year out of the 7 or 8 that go first round can actually impact and can play. Imagine 9, 10, 12 kids out of high school. What does that percentage go to then that are actually ready to help? And there's a lot of guys that we have forgot about or we haven't heard of that went pro too early, and then you end up saying they're a bust. What happened to such and such? Where did they go?
Right.
They're in the G League. They're in Europe right now trying to figure it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And you're right, it will ruin a lot of lives, but it did previously. You know, before the one and done rule was in, you saw a lot of guys that went pro that literally just didn't make it. But, I mean, at some point, we got to just say, at least in my opinion, at some point it's just like, look, colleges, if the NBA is going to use college to be a recruiting ground per se, or minor leagues, then make it be that. Don't just say, well, just 1 year. Because 1 year, a lot of times, is not enough time to understand what's going on. And the NBA, as part of it, stop drafting on potential. Start drafting guys that can help you right now. If you stop drafting on potential, a lot of this stuff would go away. But it's
the NBA's fault. I agree with you.
Yeah.
If they stop doing that, the game changes.
The game changes altogether. And like I mentioned before, you see it happening, though, when they draft a guy from Europe, because the NBA knows European basketball is totally different than American basketball when it comes to development. They develop you how to play basketball at a young age, and then you become a star based on your ability. But they teach you how to play. That's why when they draft a lot of European guys, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of European guys, they'll draft you at 18. They stash you in Europe, let you develop even more, and bring you back when you're 21, 22, because they know, number one, you're more physically, fit and physically developed, but your ability to play basketball is a lot better at that point in time. I just think that at some point the NBA's got to do that as well to help some of these kids make some decisions. Make the decisions for them. Make it easier for them. So I think another thing, and kind of rolling into that, is the AAU aspect of basketball, because when we played basketball way back when, AAU was way different than what it is today. Today, it is a full-fledged business, and it just was not that back in the day. Tell me what you think as far as how AAU is affecting college basketball.
Well, I have some friends that work on the Nike circuit. So I have a buddy, and I went to the LeBron James Bronny versus DeJuan Wagner Jr. game in Louisville. There was about 12,000 people that showed up for the game. We got there 2 hours early to get a seat. I've never seen that many people there for an AAU game. Basically, for some of these teams to come to your event, they are demanding $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, which covers their team's flight, their team's hotel. They want personal security to come to a tournament. So they're not paying an entry fee. Tournaments are paying these teams tens of thousands of dollars to come. Amani Bates was a part of that. DeJuan Wagner Jr., every tournament he went to, because they say, we're going to bring in dollars. You're charging $25 a day to get in. We're going to bring in 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people to watch this kid play. So pay us to come. It is completely a business. It was not like that when I played. And I played with some good players. I mean, a guy by the name of Zach Randolph, who played in the NBA, was an all-star one year. We were roommates one year. It was nothing like that. But now it is about endorsements. Are you on the Nike circuit? Are you on the Adidas circuit? Are you playing with high caliber guys? NBA players now have their own teams. I don't remember that when I was young. I don't remember a team Michael Jordan or a team Larry Bird. Now Bradley Beal has a team, and Kevin Durant and Chris Paul, and all of these guys are now developing teams, and they're pumping tens of thousands of dollars into these teams. Teams are flying everywhere they go. We used to hop in a white van and drive 10, 12 hours to Florida or North Carolina or Chicago. So the money that's being put behind it, recruiting, with AAU. Now, if you play on a Nike team, you're more than likely to go to a college that is a Nike team. Sure. So it's so strategic. It's so financial. It is completely a business, and there's a lot of money to be made, even in the AAU ranks.
Absolutely. It's so different than when I played, which again, that was 30 years ago. It's a total business now. I don't begrudge them. I just think it's just different. Before, it used to be an avenue where kids, you would play, you got better and all, and they still do that. Don't get me wrong. But now it is a complete 100% business. And it's kind of what you mentioned, the shoe contracts, doesn't force kids to go to school, to certain schools. But it's like, if I've grown up and I've played on the Nike circuit and I've worn Nikes my whole life, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go to a school regardless that is a Nike school. I think that's bad for basketball.
Well,
But
what about the coaches who get a kickback? They've now developed relationships with Nike schools, and different coaches or different people who are influencing and paid to influence will pay AAU coaches. We'll give them a kickback. We'll give them dollars to help push or steer a kid to a school.
which
That
makes
is
it even
happening.
worse.
It makes it even worse because now the kid's interest isn't at heart. It's who's going to pay me the
Exactly.
most money to get a kid to a school. And the other thing, Big B, is social media. When we played, if you weren't at the game, no one knew what you did.
That's
There was a
right.
piece of paper that said your stats.
That's
Now
right.
you have YouTube, you have Twitter, you got highlights, you got video. There's a kid out there somewhere who's played in a game, did a dunk, it's went viral. Now everybody in the country knows who he is because of a dunk.
Right.
There's performances in games that took place 20, 30 years ago that if someone wasn't there, it didn't happen in a sense.
Exactly.
So not only is AAU a big business, but the social media combined with AAU, it's like dynamite. I mean, the highlight, Zion Williamson blew up overnight over YouTube videos.
And playing against nobodies.
Yeah.
All those videos were him playing against nobody. I'm not saying he didn't dominate AAU, but the videos that you saw of Zion on YouTube were him literally playing against a bunch of nobodies.
It looked like 4A versus 1A, and that's what it kind of was. Now, it translated. He went to Duke and did everything he did on those little kids.
That's right.
He did it at Duke in the ACC. But I remember those videos. He was dunking on 5'10", 5'11" guys, and I'm just like, who is he playing against?
Yes, nobody. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Well, man, I want to thank you, number one, for taking the time to jump on. We'll definitely do this again because I know we got a lot to talk about with Louisville, man. So we will definitely do this again. I appreciate it, man. Tell everybody, I know you got some stuff that you do. Tell everybody what you're doing these days, man.
I am a full-time basketball trainer. I don't actually coach a team. So in today's generation, which didn't exist when we came around, I work with kids all the way from about 8 to even college players who come back. So what we do is skill development. We do shooting, ball handling, dribble drive. We work on strength. We work on speed. We work on scoring off the dribble, finishing. And I do this probably about 345, 350 days a year. Okay. So I've been doing that for about 4 years full time, about 7 years total, but 4 years now I've been full time training.
Tell us where can we find you and where can people get in contact with you?
Well, I'm only on Facebook right now from a social media standpoint. And I don't use a lot of my social media to push my business because honestly, I'm almost full. Word of mouth has really, I literally booked 2-3 weeks in advance. I don't need to, post a million videos or be out there kind of searching for business. It comes organically. But I'm gonna have a gym in Jeffersonville. I rent a church, First Christian Church in Jeffersonville, and I train about 30 to 40 kids a day. And when school's out, a number goes to about 50 kids a day.
Okay, man. Well, that's good stuff. Because you don't find good trainers. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, Brian, that I know that train people that don't know what they're doing, don't have the experience, that I feel like, me personally, that they're ripping people off. They don't have somebody that's played college basketball that understands the game of basketball like you do.
Well, let me touch on that. I don't think that being a player at a high level necessarily validates that you're going to be a great trainer. Brad Stevens is one of my favorite coaches of all time, and he didn't play in the NBA. He wasn't an elite college player. He was a film and a stat guy who just had a brilliance and a knack to be great at coaching. I just think at the end of the day, the quality of the training should be development, growth, and actually practical basketball that can be applied to games. I see videos of trainers, they're teaching moves, they're teaching a kid to dribble 15 times before they shoot, moves that they're going to use maybe once or twice in a game. It has to be fundamentals, it has to be practical. It needs to be able to be customized for the individual kid. What do you need to work on? And in that case, if that happens, then it's quality training.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on. And like I said, we'll have you back. Appreciate you jumping on, man.
Thank you, Big B. Have a great one.
You too.
See you, buddy.